Hi, I'm Councilmember Harry Tommy Thomas Jr., and I'm proud to be here as a native son of Washington, D.C., one who was born and raised in Ward 5 and have seen the many phases that this wonderful ward that I have been elected to represent you has gone through. 4 years ago, I ran on a platform of building bridges, finding solutions, and people first. I think in this 4-year time that I've been privileged to serve you as residents of Ward 5, I have honored my commitment to you. We've had over 2,200 meetings where we've been out in the neighborhoods, meeting with residents, ensuring that the needs of Ward 5 are met and being on top of those needs. We've had innovative events like Councilmember on Your Corner, where we set up my office in your community and ensure that you get to meet with your council member in person. We've also had a new and integral part of our government that is now called DC Speaks, where we have interactive town hall meetings where you residents can be involved. As we look forward, and I'm seeking your vote for re-election, I would like all of you to know that I'm committed to continuing my hard work to bring Ward 5 to where you want it to be. We've looked at great leaps and bounds of what has happened in our ward. We've had significant progress in making Rhode Island Avenue a great street. Rhode Island Avenue is now having great developments like the Rhode Island Avenue development, which will bring new jobs to our residents and ensure that we have the economic viability we need. But we didn't stop there. We started with places like North Capitol Street. North Capitol Street 3 years ago was not a great street, and it is now a great street, and we look forward to the renovation and the restoration of a great corridor that can bring business and all the things that the residents need to have economic viability, community sustainability, and the kinds of services that you deserve. I also would like to look at my work as the committee chair of Parks, Recreation, and Libraries. You know, a legislator has two primary focuses: to introduce legislation and to have vigorous oversight. It was through my leadership that we checked and made sure that $85 million in misappropriated funds is now under special investigation, and this city will have the right to get the services that they should pay for. No longer will you see contracts given to friends and contracts given on a non-competitive basis. You now have the kind of oversight to ensure that when you ask for things in your community like your rec centers, that they are provided. Programming is a critical part of what I've been able to do. So as you look at the programs that we brought to our recreation centers and our libraries, I've been proud to say that our reading initiatives, our sports and recreation initiatives, and our health and wellness initiatives are those that have taken on the tough issues like HIV/AIDS and other community concerns that need to make us for a healthy and well-lived community. I would also like to talk a little bit about where I see our ward going. Our ward has tremendous potential. Our potential is starting with great legislative sessions that gave us the kind of work through my legislative initiatives to bring to you new affordable housing initiatives like the ones in Ivy City. We will have massive affordable housing opportunities, and guess who's coming to our ward to help us celebrate it? Former President Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter will be here in October to kick off the new affordable housing initiatives that we will have in Ward 5. We also have great projects that we've done like the St. Martin's renovation for affordable housing, but we've also brought online wonderful economic revitalization at the Gateway. We'll be getting our first Costco. That was a major event for us to bring Costco to Fort Lincoln, continue the development of Fort Lincoln, but guess what we also had to do? We also had to ensure that our ward had all of the programs and assets that it deserves in our rec centers. Almost every recreation center in Ward 5 has had major upgrades, renovations, and repairs to make sure that it services your needs. As I look to what is important on the education front, I'd like to be proud to announce to you as Ward 5 residents that UDC is coming to Bacchus. Bacchus will have the community college flagship school opened at UDC. That's very important. We've worked with a federal grant with our library service to ensure that when we open Bacchus, the computer access that you deserve and those kinds of programs will be in place. We also look across the street at Fort Totten. We've made critical leaps and bounds in Fort Totten to ensure that at Fort Totten, the new development in the Cafridge family, and guess what? No one was displaced. We made sure that the residents in that community now are going to be put into upgraded units and have the same kind of rent structure that they had before as we modernize neighborhoods. We're not trying to displace neighbors. We're trying to ensure that the quality of life exists for those who are coming in new and those that are here. We've also had critical things that have been done in infrastructure repairs. We were one of the largest recipients of federal highway grant dollars to ensure that through federal stimulus dollars, that major work, like guess what, New York Avenue and the traffic patterns are changing on those streets are now being done under this major renovation work. We also looked at corridors like 12th Street in Brooklyn, where through our aggressive leadership, made sure that we had initiatives to ensure that power lines will be buried, and we will make sure we have the kind of canopy and green spaces that our neighborhoods deserve. Green space is a critical component of the lovely neighborhoods of Ward 5, and I want to make sure that we have that. That's why I introduced, as your council member, a green plan and many of the other things that we've done. I've also serviced our ward by having constituent groups and meeting with our leaders. There is no I in my job. We work with we, you, the people. We work with our ANC commissioners, our civic leaders and others, and community-focused groups and roundtables to ensure that in our ward we have a collective voice and that your voice is always heard in the process and that you have access to me. We've had critical events that have happened in this ward where this has worked. When we had snow removal issues, guess what happened? We had our community leaders as liaisons to my office to make sure that your neighborhoods got the service they deserved, and those are the kinds of things that make sure residents are the kinds of services that you deserve. I would also like to talk briefly a little bit about education reform. Education reform has been critical, and we're moving in the right direction. This council voted for education reform. This council member supported education reform. And we're moving in a positive direction to ensure that our students get the critical things they need. But we cannot do that without student input, without parent input, without community input. And so we must strengthen those measures to ensure that the community's voice is always heard in its educational transformation. So as we move forward, I'd like to remind you that as council member, I lived up to my commitments. I lived up to the hard work that you've asked me to do. I've been accessible, I've been accountable, and I, more importantly, have been a council member that has done things to move this ward forward. When you look at the human rights issues that we've been faced with, when you look at the critical votes that have been taken, there are a lot of people that will tell you a lot of things, but I've been in the forefront and a champion for the people of Ward 5 and the people of this wonderful city. We deserve that, you as citizens need that, and I guarantee that as I go into the next 4 years with your help, with your support, and your commitment to the leadership that I have provided, I will ensure that this ward continues on track to be the #1 ward. I will point out a couple of critical things. NBC News 4 has pointed to critical neighborhoods in Ward 5, telling you that Ward 5 is the place to come to. So I invite you to join me as I continue to build bridges, as I continue to put people first, as I continue to work for you day in and day out, to continue on quality of life issues, to continue to make our neighborhoods safe, to continue to look at legislative reforms that make sense and include your voice in it. We will go forward. So on September the 14th, I'm asking you to continue to support your council member for re-election, Councilmember Harry Tommy Thomas from Ward 5.